valued in the stock markets, but to explain it so beautifully as a journey from atoms to bits, I think makes it easy even for the layest of laymen to understand. To that extent, you're doing a television journalist's job, Ramdev. And of course, it has sprung up a lot of questions. We need more nuanced answers, and you couldn't have chosen better panelists in Nitin Rakesh of Emphasis, a brilliant technology guy, and Sanjeev Bikhchandani, who has demonstrated an uncanny ability to spot not one, but already 3 unicorns in the listed space. So thank you, Ramdev, Nitin, and Sanjeev. Okay, to shoot the first question, let me take it from where Ramdev ended the conversation. Execution, execution, execution. As well, your ability to forecast sales growth, because it has to be market cap to sales growth that we have to decipher. Sanjeev, since you're so good at it, can you tell us what are the boxes that they should tick when you want to forecast exponential sales growth?
I'm actually terrible at it. And
no, I think you're on mute.
Yeah. No, I'm not on mute.
Right. The voice needs to be boosted. Charles?
Can you hear me?
Yes, fine. Yes, sir.
So actually, Lata, I am terrible at it, and I don't even try to do it. Okay? So when we go into companies, we go in really early. So when we went into Zomato, it was doing 1 lakh a month of sales, losing money. And that the 1 lakh a month came from one contract with Citibank. Okay, so it's not as if there were dozens of restaurants paying them. When we went into Policybazaar, it was a PowerPoint presentation, or even prior to PowerPoint, perhaps. So the product not been launched yet. It was just a conversation. It was a theory. Okay. So when we go in, there is no way we can forecast exponential sales. We go in small chunks at a valuation that we think is fair and reasonable, and we put in a small sum of money, and then we double down as the company progresses. Now we measure progress in many ways. We measure progress by, in today's day and age, apps downloaded, engagement, customer feedback, utility, possible revenue models, right, and so on. You've talked about Zomato and Policybazaar, which we got right, but let me tell you the ones we said no to. Okay, and where we would have made pots of money if we'd said yes to. So we said no to Flipkart in its pre-series A. We said no to Ola in their pre-series A. We said no to Snapdeal twice at 28 million. We said no to Big Basket early on. We said no to Lenskart. We said no to Taxi for sure on the pre-series A. So we've said no to a bunch of others. And I'm quite honestly and candidly admitting that it's very hard to predict early on yes, no, and get it right. So while we have got many no's where we got it wrong, right? As long as we're getting enough yeses right, we are okay. And the truth is, there is some judgment, there is some method, there is some hard work. There is very little data early on. There's a lot of, in 2010, Dipinder Goyal was 28 when I met him. And what did we have when we said yes? We had a website which had the only website in the, there were lots of restaurant websites, but this is the only one with all the menu cards. I was using it and I really loved it. Hitesh was using it, he really loved it. And when I met Dipinder, I asked him, ye idea kahan se aaya? Where did you get this idea from? And he said, look, I was working in Bain Consulting in Gurgaon, out of IIT Delhi. Now this is a 28-year-old guy, huh? This is a 28-year-old and he's, maybe 5 years out of IIT. Right? And in Bain Consulting, there were maybe 50 or 60 people working there, mostly young, mostly male, many living away from home. Working hours were long. You ended up with having 2 meals in the office, lunch and dinner. Often at a cafeteria where, which would not serve food, but you could bring your own food and have it. And these guys would never bring food from home because they were young male living away from home, right? And so you had to order food in. Now, to make life easy for the office, for the employees, the admin team had put together 1 or 2 file folders of roughly 80 restaurants that would deliver to that location with the delivery menu cards, right? And he said, look, har roz 1 baje, 1 o'clock when I go to have lunch, there's a long line to access this file folder. You wait 20 minutes to access for 2 minutes, then you decide, and then you phone up, and then you come back in 1 hour and the food is delivered, the restaurant. and huge plane. So one Saturday, I came in and I scanned all these menu cards and put them on my personal page in the office intranet. And 2 days later, the IT infra guy came to me and said, what have you done? Why is 98% of the internal traffic going to your page? So I clearly understood that I've hit a hot button. And so he went out on weekends picking up menu cards. And we had 800, he launched the site. Now, here is a situation where the market, the customer, the prospective user has given a clear signal. I will want this. So what the most important thing we look for is a very compelling value prop, evidence of that, a very, early sign of natural traction, what we call natural traction. And then we go in if we find the team is good. If I show you, I still have those old emails preserved. If I show you the emails when I was bouncing this off the board, saying I want permission to go ahead with this investment, 4.7 crores into Zomato, there was enough comments that say, hey, this is going to be a small market. How many restaurants are there? This is mom and pop restaurants. They don't have an ad budget. ये तो 20 crore company बनेगी, Sanjeev. Are you sure? And I said simply this, boss, they are solving an unsolved problem. People seem to like it. I like it. Bande theek hai. The people are okay. They're smart. They'll figure it out. Let's go in and see what happens. It's only 4.7 crores. And that's how we went in. And I've got all that old correspondence.
Okay.
So when you go in on a prayer renewing, some chotu straw in the wind, good people, and then you pray hard and they work hard.
Okay, I guess
I do not predict exponential growth.
Well, I think your hunch is much better than the prayer. So we will keep coming back to you to ask for reasons why you chose what you chose. Nitin, before I hand it over to Ramdev, you are a little more of an insider because you have provided the IT infrastructure for many a digital company. Do you have anything more to add in terms of whether you're able to spot the success guys, the sheer execution ability?
Lata, we spent a lot of time thinking about, if you remember this 2x2 matrix that Ramdevji put up on, the aspirants and the top right quadrant is where you need to get to. I think the real trick in having a successful digital pivot really comes down to two things. One, respond to the market. Do you have the ability to actually, not take weeks and months, but very, very quickly, figure out what the customer feedback is and how you can change the model? Very much part of the successful business model. And second, this obsession about everything consumer. I think the mistake a lot of traditional companies make is that they assume they're in the B2B business. They don't need to really worry about customer experience. I think it's the biggest myth going around right now that we are a B2B business. Every business is a consumer business. Not everybody's figured it out yet. And unless you make that pivot of actually getting customer obsessed around everything, whether it happens to be experience, the product market fit. I think Sanjeev talked about, the fact that every customer loved, what Zomato had started doing with a simple catalog of menu cards. I think the obsession with all things consumer, starting with experience, product design, service design, is really, at the very foundation of making that digital pivot. And I think the successful ones, the ones who are making that pivot, and I think we spend a lot of time working with traditional enterprises that are in that journey. Those are the two things that truly differentiate, these businesses. And I think unless you can demonstrate the ability to be truly agile, nimble, and have that customer in view, start in front of the consumer. Don't worry about what's the complexity that's sitting in the back office. You're not going to be able to make that digital pivot. And I think to me, those are two very, very strong filters.
Fair point. Ramdev?
Yeah. Let me just formally welcome Sanjeev and Nitin. Truly this digital conference. I think Sanjeev is in Delhi and Nitin is in New York. And we have both of them speaking live. So this is it can't be any more digital and global. And in this context, Sanjeev, do you see this era change, from the atoms to bits? What has happened in last 20, 25 years? After, I think, 95 that Amazon came. And incidentally, at the same time, Indian IT services also started in a small way. So in last 25 years, the companies, GE and all those companies which were very large at that point of time, dominant, top 10, they just kind of, they are still there, but they might be top, they've been 91 to 100 types. So the new set of top 10 which has come up, and they're giant, not only in terms of market cap, but also in terms of profit, profitability and cash flow, which is a completely distinct in a very efficient market like US. And even in China it has happened, we don't have much data out there. But do you think this is, this is actually a start of a public life of Indian digital companies, and next 10, 15, 20 years is going to be very different for this space and as well as for the old companies which don't digitize. What's your view?
My view is that no revolution is actually a revolution. It is usually evolution. So, जो कुछ आप देख रहे हो अभी public markets में has been cooking for the last 20-25 years. Right? Started off small, became bigger. Initially, small venture capitalists they raised, then they got bigger and bigger, and we've seen a lot of action in private markets in the years prior to these companies going public, and several others are going to go public in the next few months and years, right? So, what the public market investors are seeing today, we have been witnessing, and perhaps participating in for a decade or more. So, we made our first investment in 2007 after our IPO, right? So, this has been cooking, but yes, it's a big leap from private to public in the life of a company, in the evolution of a company, in governance standards, in scrutiny, in disclosures, and also in maturity of business and the business model. You cannot go public in India. It's very hard. I don't know of anybody who you see right now companies without profit are going public. But 5 years ago, even this was inconceivable. However, there are companies that don't have revenue that have become unicorns in India in private markets. Now, I don't think they can go public unless they get some serious revenue, at least not now, right? But वो unicorn बन चुकी हैं. अब आगे क्या progress होता है? They're getting to unicorn status on the basis of engagement and traction and utility to users without a revenue model. So let's see what happens. But yes, some will succeed, some will fail, because entrepreneurship by nature is Darwinian. It's, a few survive, many don't. But yes, you can't make it to public markets unless you've demonstrated that you're a survivor. You cannot make it to public markets until you demonstrate that, or enough people have confidence in, देखो ये company profit बना सकती है अगर चाहे 2-3 साल में. And without that credible promise, I don't think companies can go public and get any kind of valuation that's sustainable in public markets.
Yeah. So one of the things is that in last 25 years, the IT companies in India have moved from literally nothing or less than 1% of total corporate profits, so 24-25%. Do you think this segment, the digital companies which are coming up now from ground up, they would have almost same kind of market share or maybe even larger in shorter period?
Market share of profits? Look, I don't know, right? Quite honestly, I don't know. They could, but on the other hand, they may not, because history, while often repeats itself, but often it does not. Right? लेकिन जब हो जाती है रिपीट तो हम बोलते हैं देखो हिस्ट्री रिपीट्स इटसेल्फ, और जब नहीं होती है तो we say यार this company flamed out, bad management, bad company, bad model. So everybody is smart in hindsight.
Yeah.
I am smart enough to tell you that I'm not wise in foresight. I take a few bets, and when the ones that work out, so I'll tell you. We invested in 6 or 7 or 8 companies between 2007 and 2012, early stage. Of those, 2 became Zomato and Policybazaar. Nobody talks about the other 6. वो तो even sometimes I have to scratch my head and remember ये company का नाम क्या था? तो invest की थी. Right? It's just that because Zomato and Policybazaar have worked out the way they worked out, 100 और खून माफ है. Right? But when we write off, see, in 2010, 11, 12, we wrote off an investment of 30 crores in one company. Right? In hindsight, it was obvious that, look, good entrepreneur, hardworking entrepreneur. But, competition, too much capital competition, regulatory issues, all that. In hindsight, we can be very smart and say, boss, this company mein ye galti ho gayi. These things went wrong. Right? But that was, I put that 30 crores down to my training and development. It is very expensive tuition fees. But because it's been dwarfed by what we made in Zomato and Policybazaar, people forgive me.
Yeah, I mean, the point I'm saying is that you're an entrepreneur also. What do you call, you have kind of promoted and grown one of the very admirable company, Naukri.com, I mean, as a business. And that has been very early start and very successful. Now, from there, the cash flow you are getting, that you are investing and some part of even fresh raising, you are putting in all these companies. Obviously, with the thought process that these companies have tremendous potential. Of course, nobody can figure out whether one will become 100 or one will become 1,000. But you went with that foresight. So, we have a person here who has the highest foresight, confirmed, in last 10, 15. So I am asking you that, do you think this is going to become much bigger set of companies, maybe in your portfolio, somebody else's portfolio? As a group, like today, IT has become literally the highest free cash flow segment of the Indian corporate world. Do you think this has the same chance? Because it's a winner takes it all kind of situation, and it can be global also. So I'm just trying to pick your brain.
Yes, there's a possibility. But it'll take some doing and it'll take some time. 10 20 साल लगेंगे.
Okay. 10-20 साल is not too much if our savings.
Yeah. In hindsight, it's not. But if you tell somebody right now, boss, hang on for 20 years in this company, it's a hell of a thing.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah, I think
whether history repeats itself or not compared to the IT services industry, I think there are similar business models that have taken 20 years to generate free cash flow. I mean, even companies like Tesla and Amazon, that are obviously worth trillion plus today, in some cases 2 trillion. I think they've taken 20 years to actually generate free cash flow. So I think the right answer is eventually yes. I think what the journey will be depends on many things. Their execution, the ability of the investors to actually give them that much rope, the ability of consumers to actually continue to consume those services at a clip. I think clearly the size and scale of the market in India is very different, purely based on sheer numbers of consumers. It's even for US businesses and investors, it's mind-boggling numbers in India. So I think the reality is that they will become a very large part of corporate profits and free cash flow. The unknown is how long will it take.
But Nitin, Ramdev in his presentation said that one of the known to the unknown way of participating is to participate through IT companies. I don't know whether you're calling them Atom or Bits. I don't think even Ramdev is very sure. But is it likely that you're going to get an inordinate amount of business from these guys? The successes and the failures will still need your IT backup. So is this a big booming business for you?
So Lata, I think this is something that, of course, we've spent a lot of time thinking about, both at a company level, even at an industry level. And I think Ramdev and I had some discussion. Let me give you some statistics that will potentially put this in perspective. Pre-COVID, and I think the only reason I'm using that is because COVID was a major disruptor and an accelerant, and I think it's well known today. Pre-COVID, the global tech growth was in the low single digits, between 3 to 4%. Services used to grow about 1% higher because there are things like as a service that would accelerate their growth more than generic tech services or generic tech consumption. This includes all tech, right? All the way from hardware to software to services. If you look at 2021, which we are just finishing, that growth accelerated to about 9.8, 9.9%, right? So there's almost a 3x jump, 2.5x jump in tech spend. Some of it is because 2020 was a washout year and it was a flat growth year. So there's catch up going on. But if you then look at the forecast, from firms like Gartner, they're forecasting this number to stay in the high single digits, at least till 2025. If you then look at the NASSCOM pool of tech services exports, we are at somewhere in the 180 to 200 billion range, depending on where we end up with FY22. This year, we crossed Saudi Arabia in terms of the oil exports, in terms of the exports from tech sector. And that's a pretty, I would say, passing of the torch, so to speak, because we are still growing as an industry. And again, if you go by the Gartner forecast, you're talking about a high single-digit growth, at least for the foreseeable future. What's driving this growth? And I think if you look at the Indian IT, that's growing at about 50% faster than Gartner forecast, at 14-15%, because there is value migration going on from global IT to Indian IT as we speak. It has been going on for 20 years and still continues. Then if you, on top of that, add on the ability to provide digital transformation services, which is where, of course, firms like ours play, you can actually see the growth rate accelerates even further by another 10 percentage points. And the reason is because the tech spend will stay elevated for two reasons. Almost every business has figured out that this is something that is an existential crisis, and they will have to spend on driving transformation using all possible forms of change. Two, there will definitely be, as you see more and more migration move away from CapEx to OpEx in tech spend, cloud is nothing but an OpEx way of spending, you consuming tech. There is internally much more money available for companies to spend within the year. And third, I think if you start looking at every part of the value chain of every enterprise is getting digitized. It doesn't matter whether you are in the, earlier on, it was mostly the CIO spending technology budget. Now the marketing guys are spending tech budget, have a tech budget. Product guys have a tech budget. Contact center and customer service have a tech budget. So it's almost every part of the value chain is getting digitized. And hence you will see that suction sound where anything to do with, change through tech is in high demand. So I think this is very much a theme that is playing out in our industry. We've seen growth rates accelerate almost to 2x in the last 12 months. And we think this is a great way to play the digital transformation pivot.
Well, a question to you, Ramdev. What about the financial sector? See, I would assume the fintech competition should take away something from banks.
Yeah.
But this is a regulated, highly regulated sector, especially banks. I mean, I'm not speaking about insurance, where Policybazaar obviously has carved a niche. But in banking, the Reserve Bank would want to protect depositors and in the process be ultra careful, ultra serious watchdog of banks. So in such sectors, do you think digital, although the play is easy, the profits could be restricted?
Last one, what you said?
Fintechs.
Yeah.
Well, can they be as successful as tech companies in other areas, like a Zomato, like a Nykaa? Among fintechs, is the success rate likely to be curbed because it's a regulated sector?
Of course, the regulation will stop them from having a full play. Because the moment you say you can't do this, then suddenly the business plans get curtailed. But the financing sector, the payment and all kinds of, every aspect of banking is the most suited for the digital transformation.
Exactly.
And the first level of migration is on in India from public sector banks to private sector banks. So in last 25 years, private sector banks, because it is atom format, branch format, they could transmit only 35% of the market share. And 65% is still, 60-65% still with public sector. But before that, this transition could complete, now digital onslaught has started. So even, the non-digital banks, or fintech you can call it, see, the legal structure could be whatever, but there will be more and more conventional banks like all these private sector banks, or even the public sector banks. They'll become more and more fintech.
No, that they have. Yeah. I'm only speaking in terms of stock selection.
Yeah.
There can be severe attacks on, say, non-financial businesses.
Yeah.
But perhaps in finance, the regulator comes in the way.
Sure, because as you said, the risk of depositors and all. In fact, deposit-taking fintechs will be few and probably for many years, the deposit-taking rights will stay with the banks.